The story opens inside a vast fabric warehouse at night. The place is eerily quiet, too quiet for its size. Endless rows of faceless mannequins stand stiff in the shadows, their plastic bodies catching just enough light to look alive. The air feels heavy, stale, almost suffocating. Esther, a weary employee finishing her late shift, sits in the break room gathering her things. From the open door, she noticed a light at the far end of the vast warehouse flickering on and off. But it wasn't a normal, quick flicker, it was slow, deliberate, almost intentional. Her curiosity, mixed with instinctive fear, pushed her to go check. As she got closer, suddenly the main lights went out, plunging everything into pitch-black darkness, a darkness so heavy it felt like it had weight. When the lights buzzed back on, a shadow appeared. It was the figure of a woman, bent, twisted, with long, messy hair, standing in the distant square of light at the far end of the warehouse. She was painfully thin, skeletal, and her posture was unnaturally broken, like a shattered marionette doll. Esther froze, her mind struggling to make sense of what she was seeing. She blinked rapidly, hoping it was just her imagination. But then the lights went out again, and this time, a chilling sound scraped through the silence, the sound of long, dry fingernails scratching across concrete. Panicked, she called out for Paul, her manager. Her trembling voice barely came out as a whisper. Paul, in his brightly lit office, was on a video call with his young son, Martin. Their conversation was forced and cheerful, an attempt to mask the worry simmering beneath. Paul tried making Martin laugh, but the unease on his wife Sophie's face was impossible to hide. She was exhausted, whispering that she had started talking to herself again, talking to her imaginary friend, Diana. The way Paul spoke her name was tinged with frustration and fear. On the other side of the screen, Martin's expression turned deeply serious, haunted. He knew exactly what that meant. Diana wasn't imaginary to him. He lived with her. Suddenly, Esther burst into Paul's office, her face pale, her eyes wide with terror. She stammered out fragments, about a woman, about nails, about darkness. His soothing voice was unconvincing, even to himself. Deep down, he knew he had to see for himself. With a weary sigh, Paul ended the call with Martin, promising to talk later, and stepped into the warehouse. He immediately felt a shiver run through him. A faint noise echoed, something falling quietly. Then, the last row of flickering lights went out. From the darkness came the same scratching sound Esther had described, only closer this time. Heart pounding, Paul moved cautiously. In the shadows beyond the last trace of light, he saw it, the same thin, twisted figure. He stumbled backward, then bolted for his office. But he tripped, scrambled to his feet, and when he looked up, the shadowy woman stood right in front of him. Terrified, he ran back into his office, grabbing a wooden bat for protection. The warehouse plunged into complete darkness. Moments later, his office light flickered out too. With a loud crack, something yanked him violently into the blackness. Only a muffled scream echoed in the silence. When the lights returned, Paul's lifeless body lay sprawled in the hallway. The scene shifts to Sophie's home. Once beautiful, the house now carried an unsettling weight. Martin sat awake in bed, stiff with fear, eyes fixed on the bedroom door, the fragile barrier between him and the night. From the next room, he heard his mother's voice. She was talking to Diana. Her words were soft, pleading, trying to soothe, promising that Martin would eventually accept her. Suddenly, scratching began at Martin's door. Long nails dragged across the wood. Terrified, he retreated under the covers. He knew she was out there, waiting in the dark. The next morning at school, Martin's exhaustion was obvious. His teacher, concerned, called in a social worker named Emma. Sitting across from her, Martin hesitated to speak. He knew adults rarely believed in monsters. But Emma's kindness broke through his defenses. He admitted he couldn't sleep because his mother kept talking to someone in the dark. He didn't dare mention Diana by name, afraid they'd call him crazy. Worried, Emma contacted Martin's older half-sister, Rebecca. Independent and seemingly detached, Rebecca lived with a tough exterior, hiding the scars of old trauma she'd buried long ago. Getting involved with her family again meant reopening wounds she had worked hard to ignore. But her care for Martin outweighed her reluctance. Rebecca, with her kind-hearted boyfriend Brett, went to the school to pick Martin up. The relief on the boy's face when he saw her was heartbreaking. On the way home, he confided that Sophie was talking to someone named Diana. Rebecca brushed it off, insisting Diana wasn't real, just a figment of their mother's imagination. Back at Sophie's house, tensions rose. Rebecca discovered Sophie had stopped taking her medication. They argued, and Rebecca decided to take Martin to her apartment for a few nights. Sophie cried, begging her not to, but Rebecca left with him anyway. At her apartment, Rebecca tried to give Martin comfort. He tested his flashlight, clinging to it for safety. That night, strange scratching noises woke Rebecca. When she went to investigate, she saw the shadowy figure crouching near the door, scratching the floor. The creature noticed her and suddenly appeared right in front of her. Luckily, the emergency light came on, and it vanished. Panicked, Rebecca searched for Martin, only to find him asleep in the bathtub with his flashlight still on. The haunting escalated from there. Rebecca dug into her mother's past and uncovered the truth. Sophie, as a child, had been in a psychiatric hospital where she met Diana, a girl with a rare skin condition that made her fatally sensitive to light. Doctors experimented on her with intense light therapy, which led to her death. But somehow, her spirit had clung to Sophie, feeding on her weakness and depression, using her as an anchor to remain in the world. As events spiraled, the entity grew stronger. Diana attacked, dragging Rebecca across rooms, nearly killing her. The family realized Diana only existed because Sophie allowed her to. In the climax, Diana cornered them all in the house. Rebecca fought desperately, shining lights, but it wasn't enough. Diana was unstoppable as long as Sophie was bound to her. Then Sophie appeared, holding a gun. She looked at Diana with resolve and told her, "If you hurt my children, you'll answer to me." And in a final act of sacrifice, Sophie pressed the gun to her own head and pulled the trigger. Diana screamed and disintegrated into dust, her connection to the world severed forever. Rebecca, shattered, clutched her mother's lifeless body in her arms, sobbing. Later, she sat with Martin and Brett in the back of an ambulance. Exhausted and grieving, they found comfort in each other. The flashing police lights illuminated the night as sirens wailed in the distance. And that's where the movie ends.